I want to go ahead and call to order the February 28th meeting of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission. If we could, please stand, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Connie King to give the invocation and start us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father God, we stop right now, bow, and recognize you as our Creator. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this day. We want to lift up some concerns, especially the weather and the flooding and things going on locally. We pray for all that and the help that is needed and protection. We pray for our nation also. We pray for our military. And then we just pray for this time and this meeting, and that we'll accomplish things that are pleasing in your sight. Give us your wisdom and your direction. And these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone. We've got an important day ahead. While it's raining outside, I want to appreciate everybody's time and attention yesterday on one of the few glorious sunny days that we had. We spent a long afternoon in committees, so appreciate everybody's time and attention today, and we'll get right into the work of it. I would ask Ms. Danette to give the roll call.
Dennis Gardner, Angie Box, here. Bill Cox, here. Connie King, here. Chad Baker, here. James Stroud, Bill Swan, here. Kent Woods, Brian McLaren, here. Tony Sanders, here. Kurt Holbert, here. Jeff Cook, here. Jamie Woodson.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. With that, members, in your packets you have the minutes from our last meeting. Many of you have had got a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Cook. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Excellent. Does anybody have any announcements before we get started? Great. Want to thank all our good friends and partners who are with us in the room. We've got a healthy book of business to tend to today, so we'll get straight into it. With that, I would like to recognize, I believe, Ken Tarkington. Great.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, Commission members, in another capacity, I serve as a volunteer in an organization sanctioned by the Department of Defense called Employer Support for Guard and the Reserve, or ESGR. One of the missions of ESGR is to foster positive communication between and among employers and their employees who serve in uniform in the National Guard and Reserve. One of the fun things we get to do is to go out into the community as a volunteer, present awards to companies and individuals when they've gone above and beyond in their support of the men and women in uniform. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to recognize a fellow employee, Stephanie Brown, who has done just that, gone above and beyond in support of the troops in harm's way. For several years, Stephanie has coordinated, collected, received, packaged, labeled, and mailed goodie bags or boxes with cakes and snacks and toiletries and so forth to the men and women in uniform all the way around the globe. And she does this during Christmas. This year she collected a whopping 859 pounds of goodies and sent them in 9 separate boxes. And in a minute, I'm going to introduce to you our ESGR Vice Chair, Mr. Bob Haynes, who's with us today, to describe the award that Stephanie will receive and to present it to her. But first, I'd like to read a statement, or rather an email, from another fellow TWRA employee, Wes Tilley. Wes is a forestry tech at North Cumberland and currently serving with the Air Force in Africa. Stephanie, hello. Monday morning was just another day here at the little base in Africa until mail call. Little did I know I was about to receive the biggest box of goodies a person could ever receive. At first, I thought about finding a dolly and wheeling that big box to my tent. But my conscience got the best of me, and I took it to the squadron tent and shared it with the other defenders. I was on duty that day, so I was able to share with many of the people in my shift, most of them from Tennessee. We've been enjoying the items all week and will continue for quite a while. I cannot thank you enough for all your generosity and kindness. I can speak for the others here as well and say thank you for all of them. Signed, Wes Tilley, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force, Base Defense Operation Controller, 722nd Expeditionary Air Squadron in Africa. I think you can probably sense that it wasn't just the package or the contents that Wes and his other airmen appreciated, but it was the understanding of the sacrifice these men and women undergo when they put their lives on hold to go and defend this nation across the globe. And also the effort and the strife that their families undergo while these individuals are deployed. Now I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Bob Haynes, who will present the award to Stephanie. Bob?
Thank you, Ken. Madam Chairman, members of the board, staff members, it's an honor to be here today. It truly is. I'll obviously apologize for what's been visited upon me, but I can assure you I think it's all allergy, so I'm not contagious. Bear with me if you would, please. May I take just a couple of maybe minutes of informality, if I could, please? And I'd like to do this. I'd like to ask who in the room has either served in the military or had a family member who served. Okay, I expected to see a fairly large number of hands raised. Thank you very much for your service. I want to thank you for your service that you give to the state of Tennessee. I've experienced firsthand some of the quality work you do. I love those trout streams out there. Thank you so much for what you do. You know, it's an interesting thing. I was sort of taken by the email that Ken read. I can remember long, long ago, far, far away in a little out-of-the-way place in Thailand, back during the Vietnam era, when I used to receive care packages that had those cookies and those chips and those things. So you've done a marvelous job. Keep up the good work. I can't tell you how much that's appreciated. Also, I can't tell you how much we as an organization with ESGR appreciate folks like yourself who take that next step and do something that says to those men and women in uniform, we appreciate what you do and we're thinking about you. It's an invaluable thing you do, which brings us here today to express appreciation not only to Stephanie, but also to the entire organization for stepping up, taking it, to use the sports cliche, to another level and doing what you do for the men and women that serve. Stephanie, would you come up, please? I'm going to present to Stephanie, but I will tell you it is an entire agency, sort of an award. I'm going to present what's called the Seven Seals Award. The Seven Seals Award is a very special award because local folks have the discretion to decide who has taken that next step and is deserving. Now, the Seven Seals refers to the seals of the organizations in which men and women in uniform serve. Air Force, Guard and Reserve, Army, Guard and Reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, Navy Reserve, Coast Guard Reserve. So that's what the Seven Seals refer to. It is a very special award. And I'd like to present this to Stephanie. Let me read this. Presented to Stephanie Brown, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, for meritorious leadership and initiative in support of the men and women who serve America in the National Guard and Reserve. It is with great honor and pleasure that I present to Stephanie this award.
Thank you, Dennis.
Wow, this is such an honor. Those that know me, I'm a crybaby. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And again, without Tennessee Wildlife and everyone's help and support, this would not be possible. The very first time we did this, I went to the director and I said, hey, you don't know me that well, but here you go. Can we do this? And he said, absolutely. Well, I've been with the agency for 4 years now, and we're 4 years running strong, and this year was like the most phenomenal year. 800 pounds of candy and just all kinds of junk food and toiletries and everything. And as I get things in, because I always ask when I send stuff out if they will reply back to me to let me know if there's anything better that we can do to make a shipment better, or is there anything else that they might need more than just the candy, which everybody replies, no, send the candy. So we send candy, and it's always a good response, and I try to send out, when I receive something, I try to send it agency-wide to let everyone know, hey, this is what you guys have done. So again, I thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it, and without everyone's love and support, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, Bob, for your presentation. Fantastic. With that, we will move straight into, I'll go ahead and recognize Joe Benedict to come and join us and a report out from the Wildlife Committee. Commissioner Cook. Do you want to? Go ahead, Mr. Benedict.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning again, folks. We're here to talk about the Proclamation 1802-02, the Migratory Gamebird Hunting Season and Regulations, and we'll request your approval of this at the end of the presentation. And just a reminder, this was a presentation that Jamie shared last month with you folks. There was a public input taken last fall that went into the recommendations that you have before you. Just a reminder also that we've combined two proclamations, both the early, what we refer to as the early migratory game bird seasons, and late. That's because of a change in how the federal regulation timing of these regulations occurs. We're able to join those together and simplify. Along those lines, we also changed the language in this proclamation to more generic season date language, which would align that with other seasons and perhaps allow us to not have to open this every year if there were no changes to the federal regulations. There's a few changes to season dates and bag limits that I'll share in the following slides. Also, there's a modification to the youth waterfowl season, and then we've restructured all of the goose seasons for consistency with those seasons. And just a note, we had a discussion yesterday about woodcock season, and I've got some information about that that I promised, and I'll share that when we get to that slide. So here's an example of the generic wording that's in the proclamation before you. This is the statewide portion of the duck season. I'll just read those for you. The season in Phase 1 would open the 4th Saturday in November and would close the following day, so that would be a 2-day season. Phase 2 would open the 1st Saturday following the close of Phase 1 and continue through the last Sunday in January, which would be the remaining 58 days of a 60-day season. So there are only calendar date changes for the species that are on this slide here, which are what we refer to as the early season migratory game birds. No changes to the bag limit or season length, just calendar date changes. So I'll pause here for a minute and let folks digest these opening and closing dates and bag limits for the 2018-2019 season. and I will share the information about the woodcock season that you folks asked for yesterday. So this season has been moved about 2 weeks later from previous years. That change was made last year, and that was at stakeholder input request. And it was based in part on when birds occur in Tennessee, obviously. Also, the intent was to allow hunting during this season on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I look at this now, and it doesn't include Christmas. Sorry about that. So the thesis research project that I had mentioned yesterday, there's a couple dates in there that I want to share with you. And this is kind of where the season dates came from that you see before you. So this was a 3-year project out of the University of Arkansas, and they put radio tags on woodcock, both on their breeding grounds up north and their wintering grounds. And they followed these birds, some of the birds, for 3 years. And so the information I have for you is that for the autumn migration, the mean departure date, leaving the breeding grounds coming south, which would mean some of those birds would come through Tennessee, on average, those birds left their breeding ground on the 3rd of November. Okay, so they're migrating through Tennessee. Some would probably stay here for the winter. The average arrival date on their wintering ground, which would include Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Alabama, Florida, the average arrival date was December 3rd. So it appears that most birds, based on this one research project, which was completed in 2013, 14, and 15, most of those birds are on their wintering ground by early December. So the dates that we have in front of you here kind of are right in the middle of that. So that's the information that we have to share today.
And any further, we'll go into discussion here in just a second, but any other parts of your presentation remaining?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And one more thing, I just found out yesterday, Dr. Dave Bueller from UT has a current student working on a woodcock research project in Tennessee. So that project's just beginning. I think we'll be into the 2nd year of that this coming year. So that'll be another piece of information that we can include in this season setting process.
Great.
So again, the dove season dates, these are, again, just calendar date corrections for this year. No changes to the dates or the bag limits. There were several changes to the waterfowl and coop and goose portions of the season. I'll go through those next. Here are the dates for the 2018-19 duck and coot seasons, both the reelfoot zone at the top and then the remainder of the state. You'll notice the bold underlined text there. Let me get the cursor there. And that's the only change that we have. That's an increase in pintail bag limit from 1 bird to 2 birds. So that'll be in effect for next year. The youth waterfowl season, again, the dates are the same, just corrected for a calendar for 2018. The bold and underlined text here again is a change from last year. So with the change in federal regulation, states are allowed to change their definition of youth to whatever they would like. Previously, it was 6 to 15 based on federal regulations, and so we've recommended changing our definition for this youth hunt to include youth from age 6 to 16, which would create consistency with our turkey and deer youth hunters. And then also I'll read the last paragraph there. This is about who can hunt with kids during those 2 youth waterfowl days. So non-hunting adults at least 21 years of age shall accompany the youth hunters into the field during the youth waterfowl season and must remain in a position to take immediate control of the hunting device. Multiple youths may be accompanied by a single qualifying adult. However, adults and other persons accompanying youths shall not hunt during these youth waterfowl hunts. Adults not accompanied by youths 6 to 16 may still harvest geese during those dates. So again, that portion is a change from last year. We restructured, Jamie Feddersen, our migratory bird program leader, restructured all the goose seasons to, again, create consistency among those seasons and also to overlap the September duck seasons that we have. And there were some additional days and an increase in bag limit in one species that I'll go through. So again, the bold on these slides are changes from last year. The white-fronted goose season, we've added 2 days in the northwest zone, which is the opener of the duck season up there. And we've increased the white-fronted bag limit to 3 birds per day. The Canada Goose and Brant season, you'll note that the season goes now through September 16th, and that will include all the days of our early wood duck and teal season and our teal season. We actually pirated a few days from October to change that September, to lengthen that September portion of the season. And you'll note the remainder of the state, it was the same changes there, plus we added some days into February. So this is all additional hunting opportunity for our hunters, and also creates consistency. The light goose season, again, these bold numbers indicate additional opportunity. We don't expect a lot of light geese or snow geese to be in Tennessee in September, and really even in October, unless there's a kind of a weather event up north. But we want to just, since we had the days in the framework to allow this, we thought we would open that up for our hunters. The light goose conservation season, there's no change from last year. These would be the dates for 2019. And sandhill cranes, again, no change to the season length or bag limit. And as we mentioned yesterday, I'll just remind folks in the audience that may not have been here yesterday, this was the first year, we've just completed our first year of a statewide crane zone, crane hunt, and we're gathering the information about how hunters, where they hunted and how their success was, what their effort was. We will compile that report. Jamie's working on that right now, this week and next week. Because the number of tags that we issue changes from year to year based on the population and the wintering population in Tennessee, and our legal staff who recommended that we don't need to put those numbers in our proclamation since we're trying to be generic about this, the numbers are not in there. We will be working on putting that information together. We expect to get about 400 plus tags additional for next year, and so where we put those, our staff will be looking at that over the next few weeks, and we'll bring that back and share that with you at a subsequent meeting. So we recommend passage of Proclamation 1802, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Chairman Cook.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. And Madam Chairman, the Wildlife Committee met yesterday and unanimously approved adopting Proclamation 1802, and I present that to you in a form of a motion.
Excellent. There's a motion by Chairman Cook. Is there a second? Second. Yes, sir. Is there any problem with going ahead and getting this properly before us?
No, at the discussion phase, I'd just like to make.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. I apologize. I didn't see who gave the second. Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. We have it properly before us. We'll go ahead and take any questions, or I'm happy to recognize Director Carter. Director Carter?
Just a question, Madam Chairman. I'll direct this to Joe if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Joe, in the proclamation, it's showing the youth waterfowl hunt is February 2nd, 2018, and February 9, 2018. Should that be 2019?
Yes, sir. That's incorrect. We'll fix that.
So just as a note, as a proclamation for clarity, it's 19 instead of 18.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And is that something we need a proper amendment for, or is that a technical correction? Attorneys are giving advice that it's a technical correction, and so we can keep moving forward. Commissioner Cox.
I have a quick question for clarification. If we're not hamstringing you at all for the crane season to change statewide bag limits or crane zone bag limits, is that correct? My understanding was you weren't going to set those until later, correct?
Right. Well, the bag limit is in there. I could go back to that slide if you'd like. The bag limit is based on the number of tags awarded to an individual. So you'll recall that if you get crane zone tags, you get 3, and so the daily bag and the season bag is 3. If you get a statewide tag, you get 1 tag, so the daily bag and the season bag is 1. So we're recommending no change to that now. But to your question, how many tags we allocate to the crane zone and how many tags we allocate to the statewide zone is what our attorneys have recommended that does not need to be in the proclamation. And so that's what we intend to bring back to you, a recommendation of the distribution of those permits, or those tags rather.
Well, my conversation with you was that you were looking at whether or not statewide would go from 1 to 2 or more to try to incentivize people to go to the crane zone. And I wasn't going to talk about this because we were going to bring it up next month, but that's not in what this proclamation does. So you're limiting people who are from Shelby County who might want to go hunting to either drive up there or apply on a computer for one bird, then have to, you know, to perhaps go to the crane zone or for one bird. So,
Commissioner Cox, I apologize. The way this is worded now, it's generic, and so if there will be discussion, part of the discussion will be, do we want to increase to 2 statewide or something else?
we'll still have the option to do that.
Yes, sir. This
Okay.
is generic now, and it basically says that the daily bag is based on the number of tags awarded. I simply was stating that this year, the daily bag was 1 and 3. The generic wording will allow us to change that to 2 and 3, or 3 and 3, or any other combination. So apologize for that misunderstanding.
Any other questions from members of commission? Any questions from, somebody's having a really fun time outside. Or not a fun time. Apparently not a fun time. Scratch that. Rewind the tape there. Yeah, it might be the puppy cam. Any members of the, any members, yeah, I know. I forgot to put it on, silent mode. I did actually just do that with my phone too. Okay, back to business. Any members of the public, would you like to speak on this issue? With that, it's properly before us. Unless there is further discussion, we'll go ahead and call the vote on Proclamation 1802 as presented from the Wildlife Committee. Great. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, actually, we don't have to have a roll call vote for this. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Excellent. You adopt. We'll move now into a oh, thank you. Chairman Cook,
Madam
you're
Chair,
recognized.
If I recognize Mike Butler, he'd like to discuss a proposal from the Tennessee Wildlife Federation.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook, and I'm Mike Butler with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Appreciate your indulgence for just a quick moment. You should have received from us a resolution that was passed from our board on a primitive firearms expansion of the muzzleloader season. Only thing I want to mention is I think we're going to be doing some more outreach before the April meeting when Big Game Proclamation is taken up, and I would love to chat with any of y'all that have any questions about that. The one thing I would point out the resolution does ask is that we do try to find out kind of what the deer hunting public thinks of this before proceeding. We always thought that's a good idea. So if you have any questions, I'm not going to stand here and read it because you have it. So if any questions about that, please see me afterwards or give me a call or I'll be touching base with you. Thanks.
And Mike, the agency, I think it was last year, gave a good presentation on their position on that. So I would just ask maybe we could review that and discuss that at the next meeting, just to have that presentation again. Thank you.
Is that something that we ought to make available to the public to look at his resolution?
His resolution? Mike, would you like to publish that on your website? Yeah. That would be fantastic. Excellent. Excellent.
If we want to get public input, I think that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move. Any other discussion on that? Okay, excellent. We'll move into rulemaking hearing. This is a rulemaking hearing before the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to consider amending Rule 1660-01-15, which deals with the rules and regulations for animal importation. My name is Jamie Woodson, and I'll be conducting the hearing. Here's how the order of proceedings will move forward. Agency staff will present information on the proposed rule amendment. Commission members will be permitted to comment and ask questions. Members of the audience will be permitted to comment and ask questions. Staff members and members of the audience wishing to speak should identify yourselves before speaking, and we have a 3-minute time limit, although I don't expect today that we will need to enforce it, but that is our time limit for comments. And with that, I'll reserve the right to limit comment, but I think we're going to be just fine today. With that, I'd like to recognize Chief Ryder with Boating and Law Enforcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We come before you today with a proposed amendment to Rule 1660-1-15-.02, which is the importation of wildlife carcasses, products. The current rule states that cervid carcasses originating from any state or Canada province, let me swap slides here. Any cervid carcasses originating from any state or Canadian province that is CWD positive are required to follow the importation restrictions, which are basically A through E. What this rule is to, the amendment would be to propose that all states and Canada provinces that are imported into Tennessee must follow these restrictions. This amendment is basically being proposed to establish a measure to reduce the risk of the prion, that chronic wasting disease in service, from being brought into the state of Tennessee. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or discussion from members of commission? Commissioner Cook, do you have anything that you'd like to share with members of the commission?
Well, I'm very pleased that we are doing this. I think it's the right thing to do, and several states have done this, and many more are considering. So I'm very pleased. It appears that we will be approving this. So it is the right thing. Thank you for everyone's time and work on this.
Okay. Would you hand me those letters?
Commissioner Cook, for what? So I talked to Kentucky last Thursday, and they're headed down this path right here. They're probably going to follow suit with us. I talked to their major yesterday, so they got some stuff in order that Kentucky will follow.
Thank you. And members, I know many of you have received these in your inboxes, but what is coming before you, agency had these printed out shortly before the hearing to inform your decisions. The Wildlife Management Institute, Quality Deer Management Association, Dr. Fisher, and a significant coalition of leaders and sportsmen, the Congressional Sportsman Foundation, to the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, to the Boone and Crockett Club, literally folks from all across the state as well as the country. You have before you, these are also in your inbox that we have received over the last handful of days, as recently as last night, expressing support for this proposal. And so I'm sure that you all have read these in your inboxes, but I know one of them came through from a significant group of leaders in this area who are equally concerned about wildlife issues, and particularly herd management, and wanted to make sure that you had these in front of you. Any other questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Baker.
One question for Colonel Ryder. Enforcement-wise, I understand if a hunter's crossing Interstate 40, 75, or 81, they have no reason not to understand our law. Being that we border so many different other states, and there's certain rural areas that you might have to be in. You might have to cross a small road in Virginia to get back to a piece of property in Tennessee, or vice versa, in different locations. And I understand that should just be a common sense call for our officers there. But what do you recommend a hunter does in that situation?
Well, I think you're exactly right. Our common sense we anticipate, especially with Kentucky season, although we have a lot of residents along the Tennessee and Kentucky line, and of course Alabama and Georgia, that will now be, if the passing of this rule will be affected, we'll give that direction to use our common sense. And if we have communication between that hunter and our officers, I think we'll be in a good place to handle our needs.
Any other questions or discussion from members of commission? Commissioner Halbert.
Woodson. I guess this probably for Mike Butler, but I'm a little surprised I don't see Tennessee Wildlife on foundation on this, or federation. So yes, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely. You're recognized.
We are 100% in support of it. We've been working on it for about a year, and that's why I'm here, is to speak to that. And we are also very close friends with all those organizations, and have been in communication with them to let them know this is going on.
Okay. I just know we need your partnership.
Oh, absolutely.
In this. Okay.
Thanks.
Madam Chairman, and I apologize that I can't remember your name from yesterday, but this gentleman that talked to us yesterday sent me an email, some research he had done online that states that 32 states have already approved this regulation, and 15 are considering it. So that's 47 out of 50 that probably will do what we're doing. So it's a really good idea for us to proceed.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Cox. Any other discussion or comments from Commissioner Sanders?
And I too am support, but I guess my question is more for Doug and the agency. This is a significant change. Have we already got plans on how we're going to communicate this, and also making sure that we communicate this to our processors, which I discovered last year there was a small hole in our communication to processors.
Doug, would you do me a favor and come to the microphone if that's okay? Thank you so much. Well, your voice is perfect, but I want all the folks at home to be able to hear you.
All right, we do, Commissioner. We're ready to go with Mississippi right now to let them know with their recent finding of CWD that we're going to have import restrictions there, but it'll be easy enough to go state countrywide with it. Get a hold of a lot of folks. We work with an organization called ACI with folks that have kind of like CIOPA. They have communicators all over the country, so we'll be able to do that. I'll work with the Wildlife Division to make sure the processors get the letters they need.
And the hunters?
And the hunters. Oh, absolutely. We'll do everything we can with press releases and social media to take care of it. I have a meeting today with Channel 2 in about an hour, and we can discuss it, a part of that too, if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine. I was kind of amazed last year how many people said, well, I didn't know we couldn't bring deer back from these CWD states. So I know there's a human element and people not listening. So this is a big change. I want to make sure everybody, it's easier, just don't bring them in. But I want to just make sure that we really go out of our way to communicate.
We'll hit it hard.
Commissioner Stroud.
I was wondering, we were looking at the numbers here, and Bill's talking about what, 47 states, you say, Bill, total?
32 and 15.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there is a dumb question here, but is there a coordinated effort with all those states that has this plus the ones that are coming? When you have when other states set their seasons and they give information to their hunters and their fishermen, I was just wondering, can we as a unified situation, I guess, inform the hunters through, like, for instance, our little magazines and stuff like that? Is there a way that we can take the rules that we're looking at and let all the states say it in there? I mean, is there anything, I'm trying to get to this place here, is there a coordinated effort? There's a good one. Is there a coordinated effort for all these states to post these things within their ways of doing their information to the hunters? Yes, sir.
Director Carter?
Mr. Stroud, that's a good question. And matter of fact, last Thursday and Friday, all the directors of the southeastern states met. I informed them that this was coming up before our commission, and at some point I expected it to pass, and I got the feedback from several of the other southeastern states that they also are considering it. That Alabama is taking it up and will vote on it Monday. And so there are other southeastern states have already got it in the queue. But to that effect, going nationally and letting everybody else know, and the Southeast as well, at the end of this month, the Wildlife Management Institute hosts their meeting once a year, and it brings in all the organizations that you saw on their letters in front of you, as well as all 50 states, the Canadian provinces. And there's 3 different things going on at that meeting. One is best management practices for CWD in total. We had some of those earlier. That's going to come forward this meeting to try to get a unified effort across the United States and Canada on what those best management practices are to combat CWD or to control it if you already have it. There's also the Wildlife Disease Committee is taking up, as a matter of fact, I got a call last night from the chair of that committee, and he said, here's what I'd like to do is make sure that we have this unified effort across the United States. I want to bring that before my committee and see if we can't get every state to make the exact same thing that Tennessee's doing now. And then, of course, that would be published in the minutes as well as the website that the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agency has, as well as the Wildlife Management Institute. And then there are 2 other committees that are taking up similar things. So not to go through all those details, but essentially that same message from the disease side, from the policy side, and on is going to be taken up. And we just got information that Virginia has 14 new positives. And so they're looking at controlling those inside those counties that they have it. There's a certified disease program under the USDA that looks at captive herds. Well, since October the 1st, 8 herds have become CWD positive, and 4 of those are certified as low risk. The USDA, under the current budget that the president has, zeroes out that funding, so that program would no longer be available at all if it goes forward. The Southeast Cooperative Wildlife Disease Study, which is Dr. Fisher was one of the persons that wrote the letter. He's been probably the staunch person in the Southeast, without a doubt, to look at all of these. They've also cut the funding by $350,000 to that program. The states have already decided if there's any way at all of our current budgets, we will make up that shortfall from the 17 states. So I guess I'll just say all that together. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of it coming up very quickly at the end of this month to do exactly what you say, to make sure that there's a national clearinghouse that everybody has the opportunity to know what's going on in the other states, and as those rules change, they will be published.
That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
You said that perfectly, Commissioner Stroud. Any other, Commissioner Cook?
I think this is a question for Director Carter also. Last month, we talked about the possibility of maybe having the IT department, or if you could let us know who might could do this, to reach out to our surrounding states, and surely they have a database to know, who comes from each state. So if they could, if it's legal or possible to get emails or information from hunters that hunt in Illinois or in, wherever they hunt, to us to directly communicate with them and make sure they know that they can't bring it back. So is that something you think we could explore?
Yes, sir. I feel like I'm about to do my best hits album. But anyway, we are. As a matter of fact, I've talked with Doug about it. I've talked with Michael and the IT department about how we can do that. And it was part of the discussion at this meeting with the southeastern states. So I can't tell you for sure that that's going to happen, but I know that it's a thing that we all want to do, and we're going to work toward a way to find a way to make that possible.
Great. Thank you.
And I'm guessing we're going to email every email that we've got. Okay.
Commissioner Gardner.
All right. I just was curious if we're going to do that, when we sell a non-resident big game license, it seems like that would be the perfect time to have a kind of like when you accept an agreement when you go to a site. They make you check a box and before you can proceed on down the line. If you do that when you're selling a non-resident big game license, that could have the same effect. If you can collectively get your bordering states to do the same, then you are covering everybody at the same time. I don't know if y'all have discussed that, but it seems like a logical way to do it to me.
I'd like to call on Michael May with the agency, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Am I on? Is this working? Yep. All right. That's exactly what we're planning to do. I'm looking over at Susie Spriggs, who's the chief of our licensing division, and that's something that we're going to do. It'll be online. We'll have that as a pop-up that comes up. We're looking at that. And we're also going to have it on the license that you get. It'll be literature that'll be on there, along with the new CWD logo that Doug's created. All of that will be done. In addition, we're going to do the Gov delivery emails with Don King, and that'll be sent out. So there's going to be like Doug was talking about a moment ago, there'll be an aggressive, across-the-board initiative to inform people.
Will that also be on the license, like if they go to Walmart or somewhere and purchase it, it'll pop up on that license when they buy it there
That's
as
exactly
well?
right. That's what I'm talking about,
in addition
too.
to online on the phone, if it, okay.
Yeah, when you print out, when you get your email PDF of your license, it'll be on there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Holbert.
Just to reiterate what Commissioner Sanders said with Doug Markham, I would just want to stress or sooner we get out to taxidermists, because people are just now picking up their deer beginning from last year. So I think the sooner you get the word out to folks like that, the better off it is on us. And I know that Mike Butler can help with that too, but sooner the better.
Any other questions for members of commission? I'll recognize any members of the public who would like to make comment. Yes, sir. If you please introduce yourself again to the members of commission.
My name's Ed Williams, and I have a question. We've talked a lot about processors. How is a processor going to be able to determine if the deer that he's getting ready to process is from the state of Tennessee or if it's from another state, being that we have no way to tag our animals?
Mr. Williams, thank you for your question, and I didn't go through this process before. You very appropriately asked me that question, and that's such a simple question. I'm going to ask the members of the agency. I'm kidding. It's not a simple question at all, but I'm going to ask the folks who know what they're doing here with the agency to illuminate that for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, that animal should have some reference of tagging on where it was harvested, whether it's from out of state or in state. Or he's going to have to show his confirmation number where he's checked it out electronically. Does that help? There's going to be some documentation of where that animal came from and what state, inside state or outside state.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the public? Thank you, Mr. Williams, very much. Okay, with that, any additional discussion from members of commission? I think as we, before we close for the vote, I would just like to thank, while this is the first time we have had this rule before us for a formal hearing, we've spent probably the last 2 years learning more about this devastating disease, and we have had repeated presentations. We have sought knowledge not only from within the agency, we have listen to our partners, sportsmen in the state, leaders across the country about how to be as proactive as we possibly can be to protect a really special herd of animals in Tennessee. And so for me, I think I just want to thank my colleagues for being deeply concerned about the communication that we have with our sportsmen, with whether they're processors or taxidermists or all of these important partners, to make sure that they have advance information on this and that the public has information about just how challenging this disease can be, and it can literally decimate a herd. And we've got world record bucks on the wall, literally, as we sit here today, and that doesn't just happen. It happens because of the mission of this agency and the mission of this commission to thoughtfully protect, advance, and conserve resources in this state. And our deer herd and the cervid herds are very important to us. And so I personally, while this has been a complex issue for me, ultimately, I really believe it's the right thing to do. And I really appreciate all of the time, effort, and energy that our partners across the state have put into this, and staff at the agency have made to help us know fully really what's at stake here. And so I appreciate the presentations and appreciate the leadership of individual members of this commission bringing this to our attention and having us study it. A year ago, we actually deferred on a rule that might be similar to this because we wanted to know more and really understand the impact of considering this kind of change. And so I personally appreciate the thoughtfulness that's gone into it and look forward to the conversation continuing. Any other discussion before we call the vote? Thank you to everyone. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Dennis Gardner. Angie Box.
Yes.
Bill Cox. Connie King. Chad Baker. James Stroud. Bill Swan. Kent Woods. Brian McLaren. Tony Sanders. Kurt Holbert. Jeff Cook. Jamie Woodson.
Aye.
12 ayes.
All present. The vote is unanimous for passage. Thank you all very much. With that, we will now move into our second rule hearing. This is a new rulemaking hearing before the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to consider Rule 1660-01-02, which deals with the rules and regulation for birds. Again, I'm Jamie Woodson, and I'll conduct the hearing. Order proceedings will be just as our previous hearing. Agency staff will present the information proposed in the rule amendment. Commission members will ask questions and discuss the issue. We will then take comment and questions from members of the audience, and we'll certainly give the opportunity for staff and others to participate in the process. With that, thank you, Chief Ryder.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Amendment to Rules and Regulations 1660-01-02-.03, which is falconry. And the proposed amendment, for some background information, in September 2017, the Federal Register was amended that allowed Tennessee 5 peregrine falcon take permits. And all the years previous to that, it was only for 1 permit, and it was only in the Region 1 area of the state. So this amendment will allow for peregrine falcons to be taken statewide, and we're now up to 5 permits, and it can only be done under the authority of a permit obtained through the computer random drawing, and this rule amends this to allow us, to give us the process, and it defines the process for the random drawing of the permits.
Great. Any questions from members of commission? Is anyone in the public desire to speak to the issue? With that, any discussion from members of commission? Is there a motion on the rule by Commissioner Cox? Second? Second by Commissioner Baker. Any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Dennis Gardner. Angie Box. Bill Cox. Connie King. Chad Baker. James Stroud. Bill Swan. Kent Woods. Brian McLaren. Tony Sanders. Kurt Holbert. Jeff Cook. Jamie Woodson.
Aye.
12 ayes.
Ayes have it. We'll move forward unanimously. With that, we'll begin. Colonel Moates, Lieutenant Colonel Moates will go ahead and hear report outs from the Budget Committee. Commissioner Holbert.
Thank you. I'm here to request the expansion of the budget for 4 different items. The first one is to expand the budget for $174,500 for the purchase of a remotely operated vehicle. I believe you saw a presentation yesterday on that piece of equipment and its value to the agency and to the citizens of the state. This $174,000 was awarded to TWRA through the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as part of their Port Security Grant Program. The expansion is for the federal portion of that equipment. We will make up the 25% with existing budgeted dollars.
Chairman Holbert.
Madam Chairman, the Budget Committee met and we recommend passage of the budget expansion of $174,500.
Motion by Chairman Holbert, second by Commissioner McLaren and Cook. Any discussion? Any members of the public wishing to speak? With that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Chairman Holbert, you're recognized.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, the next expansion, we request to expand the budget by $700,900 for the Clean Vessel Act grant program. This money is to be used for the construction, the renovation, and maintenance of pump-out stations at marinas throughout Tennessee. This money is 100% federal money. This Clean Vessel Act program does provide grant funds to the states for the construction, the renovation, the operation, and the maintenance of pump-out stations and waste reception facilities for recreational boaters throughout the country. The source of these funds are from the Sport Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund. These funds are deposited in the Sport Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund, derived from excise taxes on fishing equipment, motorboat, small engine fuels, and import duties. So that's the source of those funds. I do have a list of 12 different marinas in the state that have already made application for these funds throughout the state. If you'd like me to read through those, I can. It's up to you. You want me to? Okay. We have on Fort Loudon Lake, Caney Creek Marina. On Percy Priest Lake, it's Four Corners Marina. Adele Hollow Lake will be Mitchell Creek Marina. Cheatham Lake, Rock Harbor. 3 on Chickamauga Lake would be Lakeside, Jones Bay Marina, and Harbor Lights. Again on Dale Hollow, 2 more, Holly Creek, Willow Grove Marina. On Norris Dam Marina. Old Hickory Lake would be Drake's Creek. Cherokee Lake is Fall Creek Marina. Center Hill Marina. I'm sorry, on Center Hill Lake, it would be, that's not right. There's a mistake here. Elm Hill Marina is listed, but that's on Priest. Nickajack Lake would be Hells Bar Marina, and on Timms Ford, Twin Creek Marina. So those would be current marinas with applications for these funds.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the Budget Committee met and we recommend passage of the budget expansion of $700,900.
Thank you, Chairman Holbert. It's a motion by the committee chairman, second by Commissioner McLaren. Any discussion from members of the commission? Questions? Any members of the public wishing to speak? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Chairman Holbert.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The next one would be the boating infrastructure grant expansion for Whitman Hollow Marina. This will be $258,800. That would continue to be awarded to Whitman Hollow Marina on Norris Lake. We'll build 24 transient slips, 200-foot covered walkway, and an ADA accessible boating facility with restrooms. I know there was some concerns yesterday about this program. I'd like to give a little more information than I did yesterday about it. This program is a federal program that provides grant funds to the states to construct, renovate, maintain tie-up facilities with features for transient boaters and vessels that are 26 feet or more in length. For this particular project, it's what's called a Tier 2 project. This grant program is broken down into 2 different tiers of funding. And for the Tier 2 projects, these funds are made available through a nationally competitive process. Tier 2 proposals received or reviewed, evaluated, and ranked by a national panel with the final decision for funding made by the Director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. These funds are also appropriated through the Sport Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund, which I mentioned to you on the CVA, same source of funding for that. On Whitman Hollow in particular, I know there was a question yesterday about how many times we've awarded them money. And we have expanded the budget for them, I think, 2 other times recently, but it was for this same project. This was a $700,000 total project, and it was a 50-50 match. So Whitman Hollow Marina had to come up with $350,000 of their own funds to proceed with this. So we've been paying this in installments. As they construct part of it, they need their funds, and we pay them. They complete another aspect of the project, and we'll pay them. So it's not different projects that Whitman Hollow's been receiving funds for. It's for the same project. We just had to do that in installments.
Commissioner Baker.
How much did we, in those other 2 expansions, have we paid them each time?
I don't have that figure in front of me. Well, yeah, it'll be 700,000 total, but this should finish it out. Is that your question?
You're saying we've gave them 700,000?
We haven't, no.
No, wait, I mean,
They've submitted, the project total was $750,000. The federal part of it was $350,000. So
you're saying our total that we're gonna give them is 350?
Yes. We're not giving them, it's coming through the federal program, the Sport Fish Restoration Fund. They got approved for. And what happens is this program actually gives the money to the state and the state gives it to them.
Okay, but after like 10 years, it's turned over to them and they can do whatever they want to with it. Is that correct?
Believe that's correct.
I got a problem with taking my tax dollars and supplementing. I mean, there's a lot of us on here that pay a lot in taxes, and I just have a problem with taking those dollars and going into a private individual. There's nobody, you guys aren't going to give me a new excavator or a new bulldozer next week, I don't think. So I kind of got a problem with that.
I understand. I think the program as a whole, it will benefit Whitman Hollow Marina some, but I think it's designed to benefit boaters to upgrade boating facilities across the nation for the boaters. And yeah, it will benefit Whitman Hollow some. And keep in mind, this money comes from excise taxes on fishing equipment, motorboat fuel tax, and that sort of thing. So I don't think it's your general income tax money that's paying for that.
Commissioner Cox?
I don't know if that helps, but.
I've got a couple of questions. I mean, I understand, but if Norris doesn't have locks where transient boats from the river system need a place to stop, refuel, do whatever, how did it get approved to start with over another one that's on the river system that's truly transient? How does the approval process work when it's a transient? Okay. Is Ed you gonna answer that, Director?
Director Carter.
Just a couple of comments. Don't let me forget where your question is, but I just want to remind on March the 20th, the next commission meeting on committee day, we've invited all the members of industry that pay into these trust funds to come and meet so we can explain where their money comes from and where it goes. And I know a lot of people in the different organizations that pay into those taxes, either on the hunting side or on the fishing side or the boating side, don't really know where it goes. They just know they're paying into an excise tax. So I would just remind the commission, of course, that we certainly hope a lot of you can be present for that as we go over those. It's not very exciting to talk about how all that stuff works, but it's exciting to talk about what the programs do on the ground. So just mentioning that. To your question specifically, Commissioner Cox, again, there are several different definitions of what navigable means, but the one that this one works off of is one that the Coast Guard designates as whether or not it's a navigable waterway. Sometimes the Corps of Engineers and TVA also have their own definitions of what that means, but the Coast Guard designates the federally navigable waterways, which are essentially the first interstates. That's why when you go somewhere and a drawbridge raises, boats have the right-of-way over vehicles. So when those boats come, traffic stops, they go through because it's a federal transportation area. Those areas that don't have a lock on them right now, that you can go from one area to the next, is based strictly on history. And if they go all the way back to if goods ever transported down that river, which of course in this was probably the clinch on Norris, then if it was transported from point A to point B, it was considered a navigable waterway at that time, and they can still consider navigable by history, and that's how they make that determination. So as Glenn said, there's two different tiers of all this money, and as they make their applications, we have $200,000 a year that we get through this same thing that we get to make the designation on. We take applications from people that want to be involved in it. Lots of marinas have not made that application, and anyway, that's how we give away our $200,000. Sometimes it's all $200,000. Sometimes it's several marinas at a much lesser spot. And again, they're making the match on whatever they have to do in terms of that. Then as we go forward on the other, the clean vessel funds, which is a part of the expansion as well, two different expansions there. Clean vessel funds are not restricted to those. They can be to any marina in the state, and the idea was that it would clear up the waterways and keep the waters cleaner by having pump out facilities all over the state. And I would just mention, I'm bragging on our boating folks, but both of those programs independently are ranked throughout the United States, both the Clean Vessel Program and the boating infrastructure. Both of those programs from Tennessee have won the national award for individually for those programs. So they really do a lot of work in putting those together, and I just wanted to mention that. But anyway, as Lieutenant Colonel said, there are no general tax funds that go into these programs. They're all trust funds, and they're generated off of special excise taxes or off of the fuel tax off of gasoline that go to vessels. So, anything else I can?
Oh, I had a question. My second question is about the process. If this was already approved and an agreement was in hand for them to pay $350, has construction already begun? Okay, it seems to me, taking the other side, that the marina is obligating itself to half the fund, half of $750,000, with no guarantee that they're going to get this other $259,000.
No.
Why was it not approved as a budget expansion totally for the whole project in the beginning?
Part of that was a decision by the agency, by me, as to whether we would put it all in the budget at one time, because there's always a chance that something will happen and that program won't go all the way through. The whole amount, the whole $700,000 was approved when they make their application. Once a year, this committee meets and they decide which of those programs throughout the nation. They compete against every other marina in the entire nation. And when they make that decision, they award the whole amount, but they don't want to pay the full amount up front. They wait until installments. So as you get this part done, then you get reimbursed for that, and it goes that route.
So, but there's no obligation for the commission to give them the rest of this money is what I'm saying. So they've kind of gotten hung out there if we don't do this.
Well, I would say yes and no. If y'all could vote no, then we'd have to go back to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I would imagine they would make the appropriation themselves, but they like the states to do it because the states are the ones that control individual boating marinas. Anything else?
Chairman Holbert?
Madam Chairman, the Budget Committee met and we recommend passage of a budget expansion of $259,000.
Second.
Motion by the chairman, second by Commissioner Cox. Any discussion by members of commission? Any discussion or questions from members of our audience? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. No is recognized and recorded for Commissioner Baker.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, the final one I have is an expansion for $22,000 to upgrade the fishing pier and courtesy dock at the Harrison Bay State Park, Wolf Teaver Creek access area. These funds will be supplemented with $10,000 that was raised by the Union Sportsman Alliance, and I believe you had a representative here yesterday to speak to you on that. It will renovate and repair the existing courtesy dock and fishing pier. The Union Sportsman Alliance will also provide all of the labor in making these renovations. The requested funds that we asked to expand for will come from the marine fuel tax account.
Madam Chairman, the Budget Committee recommends passage of the budget expansion for $22,000.
Motion by Chairman Holbert, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion from members of commission? Any discussion from members of the public? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you very much. And while Kurt's joining us, I do want to recognize two really important people who have joined us in the last little bit. Dirk King is in the audience with us today, and Julie Cook snuck in the back there. We really appreciate and value the service and sacrifice that you all give to support your spouses on this commission, and we deeply appreciate your friendship and are glad y'all are with us today. Welcome.
You might not like us so much after the next meeting. It's all about the 11% excise.
Okay. Kurt, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Woodson. This budget expansion request for Project 3445 will accommodate a $5,000 contribution from the National Wild Turkey Federation to be matched with $15,000 of PR funds, totaling $20,000. These funds will be used to purchase equipment, attachments to continue habitat improvements on South Cherokee Wildlife Management Area. No state dollars are involved with this budget expansion.
Chairman Holbert.
Madam Chairman, the Budget Committee recommends passage of budget expansion of $20,000.
Motion by Chairman Holbert, second by Commissioner McLaren. Any discussion from members of commission? Commissioner Baker.
Kirk, do you need more than that?
Wow. No, sir.
I think that's a great program. I'd be willing to support more than that if you needed it.
Thank you, sir. I think we're a good, Brandon has priced everything, and I think we're all good with what we got.
Any further discussion? Second. Any discussion for members of the public? With that, seeing no call for discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ken, welcome with the financial report.
Yeah, Ken,
Thank you,
you could move it along. Vice Chairman Holbert has a follow-up to his appointment. We delayed him yesterday. He wasn't able to finish his spa day. He was late for his massage, and then he's got mani-pedi and a waxing to do this afternoon. So if y'all would kind of move it along, we'd appreciate it.
I was going to take my normal 90 seconds, but I'll try to speed it up. There's a 3-pager report in your books, reporting on the month of December. The first page at the top of the page is the boating fund. We're approximately 7.7% down through December as opposed to the same period of time last year. And as you're well aware, November, December, January, et cetera, are very, very low months anyway. The March timeframe through the end of June are our biggest months. On the expense side, we're approximately 36% of the way, or we've spent approximately 36% of the annual allotment for the boating fund. Middle of the page, the wildlife general revenue, license sales, we're approximately 6.4% ahead of our projection for the year, $910,000, which is good. And on the expense side, we're at approximately 36% expensed through for the year of the allotment. At the bottom of the page, watchable, the two endowments, the watchable Wildlife Fund has approximately $6.5 million, or about $490 available for transfer. The Lifetime Sportsman has about $49 million. At the very bottom, and this is fairly static through the year until we get to the end of the year, this compares those that are lifetime license eligible to hunt and fish, a percent to total of those to the combo hunt and fish licenses that were purchased, and that's at 13%. Now, if all of those folks hunted and fished, the equivalent cost of that would be $7.3 million for last year. On the second page, the Wetlands Acquisition Fund at the top of the page, through December we have approximately $9.8 million cash balance. The maintenance fund we've zeroed out as we usually do. The compensation, or the in lieu of tax, is at $865,000, and usually the May-June time frame is when we get the certification from General Services, or through General Services, from the Comptroller's office as to what those payments are for the year. The last page details our investment. And I guess you got to turn your page or your books kind of catty-cornered there, 9 degrees.
Through, and this is through the month of January. They're very current on their reporting. We were about 0.7% down for that particular month. That's an evaluation. But since the inception of the investment, we're just barely above 2%. Was that quick enough? Any questions,
Questions, Commissioner Baker?
You said our boating fund is down 7%.
Yes, sir.
We're using Brant to automatically send out the renewals on that also, like we are the license?
We're not.
We're not doing that yet? We're working on that. Okay. Brant did somebody had some fraudulent stuff on my credit card, so I canceled that credit card out, and Brant's done a really good job of sending me a couple reminders while I was out of town last week, telling me my automatic renewal, the card didn't go through. So it was a very friendly reminder. It was very nice, very professional, and I just wondered if we were using that because I feel like that once that Brant system gets going and you check that box for automatic renewal so you don't forget about getting your license done, I would think that those numbers would help our numbers come up on that instead of being down. Our renewal rate would be a lot higher. That's why I asked.
Commissioner Hulbert.
Commissioner Baker, if you would give me and Commissioner Woodson your credit card number, we'll make sure that everything is taken care of for you.
I'd like to
Commissioner
ask,
Cox.
Michael, would you address why boating is not included already in those reminders?
Traditionally, we've been sending out the little postcards, right, for years, and it's more of a complicated answer than that. We're trying to migrate away from that and do it with the electronic system. The culture of the customers right now, and has been traditionally, that they want those cards. And we tried to migrate away from them and to a little bit of non-enthusiasm by the customers. So we're trying to migrate towards that in a comfortable way for them.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Excellent. Thank you very much. So members, I will have to make a confession in my exuberance to have the rule for animal importation heard and the incredible job that the agency did in describing it. For the life of me, I cannot remember getting a motion and a second on that. And so I have asked our attorneys if that could be problematic given all of our desire to make sure sportsmen and all of the partners in this work are notified of this. We would not want, because the process with the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office can take many months, in an effort to make sure we have belt and suspenders, and with advice from our counsel, I do think it's appropriate to open it up, get that motion in second, and I do believe it's going to be important to get a new vote. Do you agree, counsel? Excellent. So with that, we're going to open a rulemaking hearing to amend Rule 1660-01-15, which deals with the rules and regulations for animal importation. Do I hear a motion on the rule?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Hulbert. What could you have in mind?
Well, I've sit here. You've been the chairman for 364 days, and I have waited for this moment because I totally mess up my words and I always forget things. And, sitting next to someone who can articulate her words like something I've never heard, not making fun at all. I'll just hush. I'd like to make a motion to pass the amendment to the rule 1660-01-1502.
Madam Chairman.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Chairman Cook.
I'd
Yes, sir.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you so much for helping me dig myself out of a hole. I appreciate that. I do want to make sure we offer the opportunity for any individual member of commission to discuss this. Again, any member of the public desire to discuss this again?
Yeah.
Thank you all for your patience on that. And with that, we'll call the vote. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Dennis Gardner. Angie Box. Bill Cox. Connie King. Chad Baker. James Stroud. Bill Swan. Kent Woods. Brian McLaren. Tony Sanders. Kurt Holbert. Jeff Cook. Jamie Woodson.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Unanimous vote in favor. Thank you all very much. None of us could actually recall it. If not, we'll have multiple motions and seconds, but we just wanted to be sure so the process did not get delayed down the road because of a mistake from the chairman. So thank you all very much. With that, we'll move into the Special Nominating Committee report. I'd like to call on Commissioner Cox. Oh, yes, sir. Michael.
Madam Chairman, if I can clarify my answer to Commissioner Cox from previously for the
Sure.
vote renewal. What I was referring to was the way that we mail out the renewals notifications and inform people that they're getting, that they need to have a boat renewal. We already do have the auto renew function ready for anything that we sell, including the boat registration. So that function is already in place. But what I was referring to was the notification that we send out to inform people. And we're migrating toward more of an electronic port on that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Commissioner Cox, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Talk about process just a minute. This was an unusual year because we had 5 people on the nominating committee. I called and spoke to each member of the nominating committee and had a somewhat lengthy discussion about the candidates and vetted each possibility that was eligible to be nominated, and I let them. Commissioner Sanders was in India, so I let them and asked them to consider their options and their candidates, and I did the same thing with Tony when he returned to town, and then after a couple of days, I texted everybody and took an individual vote. So that's how the process was done, and I'm very confident that we have got an excellent slate for the upcoming year. And the nominations nomination committee voted, and I recommend approval of a slate of Chairman Commissioner Jeff Cook, Vice Chairman Commissioner Kurt Holbert, and Secretary to Commissioner Brian McLaren.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. There's a motion by the committee chairman. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Swan. Any discussion? I don't know that. I guess it's always appropriate. Any discussion from members of the public? I want to make sure we check, invite any comment. Excellent. With that, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You have your new slate of officers. Congratulations. Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to our the proper passing of the gavel coming at the next meeting. But I just want to congratulate these officers. It's a privilege. So, any other questions or comments before we adjourn and get to our business? Excellent. Oh, Director Carter.
Just, if I could, Madam Chair, just one quick note. Dave Gabbard, who was the regional I&E coordinator in Region 1 for many years and officer before that, tomorrow, I guess today is his last day. He's retiring, and just want to acknowledge the help from Dave over that time. And also, a lot of you know Barbara Toon. Barbara is in our office and has worked with us, worked with Bobby. Today is also her last day. Wow. And she's leaving, and she's being replaced by Mary Allen, and I'd like you to meet Mary if you haven't already. So.
Hi, Mary. Welcome. Well, thank you so much for mentioning that, Director Carter. To both Dave and Barbara, we just appreciate your tremendous service. I've spent a lot of wonderful time out in the field with Dave, and when he was not I guess he was working, but he wasn't on his official duties. But I really appreciate their leadership and work for the agency, and those are going to be awfully big shoes to fill for both of them. Oh, that's so nice to know. He is an excellent cook. Excellent. Any other comments before we adjourn and get to the rest of our day?
I do.
Chairman Cook.
So you've made it very difficult to want to follow to be chairman based on the fact that, when the Rolling Stones leave the stage, you don't bring in a polka band, but that's what we're doing here. And so it's hard to follow a rock star, but I know your dedication to this agency, and I know the countless hours you spent doing this job, and I know that your main emphasis is to protect the wildlife, but soon, quickly followed by listening to the sportsmen and the non-sportsmen, and what you've done for this agency has been incredible, and I greatly appreciate it. I know we all greatly appreciate what you've done, and I'm so happy you'll be here for another year as well to learn more. You've been an example of how to do this job, and so thank you so much.
You're generous. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. Commissioner Holbert.
I would definitely echo everything Jeff just said. It's been an honor to serve with you. I hope he can make it 364 days without his first goof up. And I think that's a great act to follow. But so all seriousness, it's been an honor to serve with you, and thanks for the example you've set. And I am glad Jeff's going right after you instead of me.
Well, thank you all, and congratulations. It's every minute of this. This is my 5th year on commission, my 20th year working with the agency in a variety of different ways as a citizen legislator and as a volunteer commissioner. And I'm looking forward to the next 12 months and continuing to serve with each one of you all. It's a privilege every day, and the work of this agency it's multi-generational. When we think about the children who were born in the last month and who aren't born yet, and the obligation we have to them to protect and grow our resource. It's just a real privilege, so thank you. Yes, sir.
Unless anyone else has any comments, we have a token of our appreciation to give you.
Well, how nice. Thank you.
I just wanted to say,
Director Carter.
On behalf of the agency, I know how much time it takes. Maybe I don't know, but I have a pretty good idea how much time it takes to be a commissioner and all the time you invest with all the people. And there's another level of that as being chair. So just thank you for taking on that extra load and for the leadership through this last year.
Thank you very much, Ed. That's very much. I appreciate that and look forward to the next year, too. Okay, guys, thank y'all so much. And without any objection, we are adjourned.